Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Thank you for listening to Your Working Life, my podcast series featuring thought leaders in the career and personal growth arena. Hey, I know that you spend a significant portion of your life at work, so my goal is to provide you with tools, inspiration, and resources so you can enjoy your career and love your life. And I am delighted to welcome my very special guest to the show today, Dr. Sam Alibrando. Sam, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Hey, I want to tell our listening audience all about you, and we have a global audience listening truly from around the world. Sam is a psychologist, author, speaker, teacher, workshop facilitator, collaborative mediator, organizational consultant, and executive coach. Well done, Sam. You are a jack of all trades. He has made a career of transforming organizations by transforming its leaders. And Dr. Sam has worked on the three-dimensional model articulated in The Three Dimensions of Emotions, his wonderful new book, which we're going to talk about today. And this process has been something you've been working on for nearly 35 years and has taught it to thousands of people.
I started when I was 10 years old.
There you go. There you go. Well, Sam, let's dive right in because there's so much to talk about. But what prompted you to write this book? That's my first question.
It really has been 35. When I was in my master's degree, my first master's degree, I came across the book by Karen Horney called Our Inner Conflicts. And in that book, she talks about how we resolve inner conflicts relationally. She says we do it one of three ways. We either move against people, we move toward people, or we move away from people. And I thought, isn't that interesting? I loved it because it was very simple. But when I tried it out as a young therapist and then eventually as a coach, I realized it really covers most of the ways we move. And it wasn't just inner conflicts. It was also how we move in general. And then when I went on to my doctorate, I ran across a man named Wilfred Bion. And independent of Karen Horney, he says there's three ways we connect to others. We connect either through love, through hate, or through knowing. And I said, I know somebody else who has three. And I realized two independent people, really smart people, asking a different question came up with the same three things. And I said, and that was the birth of what I came to call the Interpersonal Triangle. And then I realized from biology class, if you might remember, the three ways an organism protects itself is either by fight, flight, or freeze and appease. And there they were again. Fight is the moving against. I don't like the word hate. I changed it to power. And then heart is fleeing as moving away. And that's the dimension of what I call the knowing dimension or the mindfulness dimension. And then the last, of course, is the moving toward dimension. And that's the way an organism protects itself is by submission. Our little dog, Mona, who's 20 pounds, when she's around her big friend who's 40 pounds, will sometimes go on her back. And submit. And that's another way we move. So that was the birth of what I call the three dimensions. And each dimension can either be positive or negative. It could be creative and enhance communication, or it can be destructive. For example, a good moving against, a good power is setting limits for yourself. It's our determination. It's our fight. And a bad version of moving against is being a bully to other people, disrespectful, etc. So each one has a positive or a negative valence, if you may.
So, Sam, let's break this down a little bit because your quest is really to help people improve relationships, whether it's at work or at home. And I love the subtitle of the book, Finding the Balance of Power, Heart, and Mindfulness in All of Your Relationships. So who's the ideal audience? Who should be reading this book?
Anyone who has a relationship.
Okay, well, that's pretty much everybody. Yeah, well done.
It's really another way of packaging emotional intelligence. Because you think of Goleman's idea of emotional intelligence, it's about self-regulation, self-awareness. It's about how to manage other people, et cetera. And really, it's another way of thinking about emotional intelligence. And so whenever we get out of balance, that's the whole trick here. That's the beauty of this model, is that when we get thrown out of balance, it's a roadmap on how to get back into balance.
Love it. And I so appreciate, as a fellow coach, in my case, an executive and leadership coach, people need a roadmap, right? A coach doesn't tell you what to do, but they can help guide you on your journey. So I'm fascinated by this particular reference in the book. You talk about the 3 colors of paint people use in different situations. Would you elaborate a bit on that, Sam?
Certainly. And what I found was people were getting tripped up by the language. And I live in Pasadena, California, so I'm right near Caltech. And I would do this for scientists, and even they couldn't always, the language would trip people up, even so it had nothing to do with how intelligent they are. So I switched over to colors, and I used the 3 primary colors for the 3 primary ways we relationally move. And I assigned the moving against to red. The kind of red means stop, right? We made. I was so mad I could see red, right? That's a kind of a. So I gave red to moving against, or the power dimension, and I gave yellow to the moving away dimension, or the knowing dimension, and I gave blue to the moving toward, or the heart dimension. True blue, right? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the colors is people tend to remember them. I also use the Wizard of Oz as by another way of remembering that, but that might be the next thing we talk about. But the nice thing about colors is you can blend them. I was just talking with someone earlier today. I most of the time I do consulting or executive coaching, but I also have a little practice still. And it was someone who wife is very, very red. She gets very angry. She blames people. Reds, when we're in our reactive red, we tend to blame other people. And he goes green. Just a blend of yellow and blue. He tries to placate her, and then he detaches. So that's the green color. His challenge and his roadmap is how to integrate more red. When he integrates more red, he'll come back in more into that balance I talk about in the subtitle. So that's why I like colors, because people kind of get the colors eventually, and then you can do blends as well.
So, Sam, let's take that a step further and perhaps flesh out a hypothetical. So all of us in our lives have experienced a difficult person, whether they were a boss or a colleague or a peer or even a family member, even a loved one. And I realize this is a big question, but can you distill some basic advice about how we manage difficult people?
Sure. And that's one of the things I talk about in the book. I call them the 3 principles of managing a difficult person. The first principle is manage yourself first.
Yeah.
The second principle is manage yourself first. Can you guess what the third principle is?
I have a feeling, yeah.
Manage yourself first. When we manage ourselves first, we are then, because usually when we encounter a difficult person, they trigger our stuff.
Yeah. Because
we go into fight, flight, or freeze and appease mode when we get encounter a difficult person. So we're going to get out, we're going to be triggered too. And then if we manage our own emotional state, if we are emotionally intelligent, and for me that means finding the balance between power, heart, and mindfulness, and we're integrating that, we are then in the best position to work with someone who is in their own triggered state. And usually that would be sometimes I call it aroused and non aroused.
Yeah.
So some people just get upset and they go into their reactivity, and other people are like that all the time. That's the non aroused state. They're like kind of narcissistic all the time, if you may, or they may be codependent all the time. But in any case, as a difficult person, if I manage myself first, I am then in the best position to manage their reactive state.
So I love that you're really putting the onus on each of us to be self-aware, to self-manage, and be aware of our own triggers, so others can't as easily push our buttons.
Exactly, and it's not just I'm all into personal responsibility, but it's also tactically and strategically also the best place to work from. Because when we are, and you know this as a coach, and you know what it's like when executives get thrown out of whack. Our capacity to be creative and effective is very quickly diminished when we're in a reactive state rather than what I call a responsive state.
Very good. Very good. Sam, your website is extraordinary in addition to the book, and we're going to talk about how to buy the book in just a bit, but I know you've got such great tools. You've got some assessments, some diagrams. In particular, I'd love for you to highlight the Interpersonal Triangle inventory because I'm confident that our listeners will be eager to check that out.
Yes. You want the website for that?
Sure. And tell us about the tools and how we can use them.
Of course.
Please do.
I want to qualify. It's not a scientifically established tool.
Okay.
But I use it all the time for workshops I do, and I never get any complaints. It usually people will say, "Wow, that nailed me." And the interesting thing about the tool is it has to be context specific.
Yeah.
Unlike personality, we're different in different situations. So as an employer, I may be different with my boss than I am if I'm the employer, and I'm different with an employee. So different aspects get brought out. So in the test, on the assessment, you have to identify who it's about. It's about my spouse or it's about my boss. And then you answer the questions. There's 20 questions, and it'll give you a profile of how you respond under normal, positive, and then also how you become reactive. And it'll give you some scores to let you see, oh, yeah, I really do get red when I talk to my spouse. Or I really do get red when that employee shows up late.
That's great. So do give us the web address so we can find it. And also tell us, how can we buy your book, The 3 Dimensions of Emotions? That's
great, because I can answer both questions at the same time.
Okay.
The website is power-heart-mindfulness.com. So it's power, heart, and mindfulness with a hyphen in between.
Excellent. And I know, Sam, that you are a prolific writer and contributor in the social media realm. Tell us, what platforms are you most active on so our audience can find you?
I'm most active in Twitter and also in LinkedIn. I'm still learning Facebook, but the other two I'm pretty active in.
Great. And is the best way to find you at Dr. Sam Alibrando? Is that the best way?
That would be it. Yep.
All right. So, Sam, what else do you want to share with our listening audience before we bring the show to a close? Such good information here. What's one nugget of wisdom you want to share?
That when we get out of balance, when we catch ourselves getting out of balance, the key notion in the book is it's not what we're doing that's negative, it's what we're not doing that's positive.
Beautifully put.
It's not what we're doing that's negative. So let's say I'm losing my temper, I'm getting red, I'm getting angry. That's not the issue. The issue is, do I need heart or do I need mindfulness right now? And ask yourself that question. If it's mindfulness, I can take a step back, take a couple breaths. Be the observer, not the reactor. If I need blue or heart, I need to listen to what the other person's saying. Yeah, maybe they're mad or maybe they're upset, but let me listen and really try to understand what they're going through. As I always say, empathy is not agreement. You can empathize with someone without agreeing with them. So it's not what we're doing that's negative, it's what we're not doing that's positive, and that's the roadmap.
Brilliant. Sam, I'm going to reiterate the title of your book, The 3 Dimensions of Emotions, Finding the Balance of Power, Heart, and Mindfulness in All of Your Relationships by Dr. Sam Alibrando. Sam, thank you so much. What a pleasure to have you on the show. I wish you continued success, and I hope our paths cross again.
It was a pleasure, and me too.
Thanks, Sam. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Your Working Life, where my goal is to help you design your career destiny so it doesn't happen by default. Career and life satisfaction is possible, and it's time to embrace what you love doing so you can do more of it. The show is now available on iTunes, YouTube, Podbean, and Stitcher. I hope you will consider subscribing so you can get fresh shows every week. I'm Caroline Dowd-Higgins. Take good care.